Silence, all stand. All persons having any business before this honorable court now draw nigh. Give your attendance and you shall be heard. God save the Queen.
Admission of lawyers. Madeline Karen Edwards Antrim.
May it please the Court, I move that Madeline Karen Edwards Antrim be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Madeline Karen Edwards Antrim be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rachel Ann Cracknell.
May it please the Court, I move that Rachel Ann Cracknell be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Rachel Ann Cracknell be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Taylor Jane Dand.
May it please the Court, I move that Taylor Jane Dand be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Taylor Jane Dand be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ivy Tweevy Doe.
May it please the Court, I move that Ivy Tweevy Doe be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Ivy Tweevy Doe be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jana Therese Eltoumi.
May it please the Court, I move that Jana Eltoumi be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Jana Therese Eltoumi be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jessica La.
May it please the Court, I move that Jessica La be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Jessica La be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jacques Andre Lawrence.
May it please the Court, I move that Jacques Andre Lawrence be admitted as a lawyer to this honourable court.
Let Jacques Andre Lawrence be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rayanne Mubayed.
May it please the Court, I move that Rayanne Mubayed be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Rayanne Mubayed be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Clodagh Elizabeth Nesbitt.
May it please the Court, I move that Clodagh Elizabeth Nesbitt be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Clodagh Elizabeth Nesbitt be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Samantha Jane Parker.
May it please the Court, I move that Samantha Jane Parker be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Samantha Jane Parker be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Andrew Wise Pattinson.
May it please the Court, I move that Andrew Wise Pattinson be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Andrew Wise Pattinson be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Isabel Mary Shackley.
May it please the Court, I move that Isabel Mary Shackley be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Isabel Mary Shackley be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sina Shakui.
May it please the Court, I move that Sheena Sakui be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Sheena Sakui be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sonia Ariella Wijaja.
Let Sonia Ariella Wijaja be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Liam Colin Willoughby.
May it please the Court, I move that Liam Colin Willoughby be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Liam Colin Willoughby be admitted as a lawyer of this court. It will be necessary for the purpose of swearing an oath or making a declaration that all those being admitted today stand up but remain in their current places. Could all the admittees please stand?
Madeline Karen Edwards Antrim. Rachel Ann Cracknell. Taylor Jane Dand. Ivy Tweevy Doe. Jana Therese Eltoumi. Jessica La. Jacques Andre Lawrence. Rayanne Mubayed. Clodagh Elizabeth Nesbitt. Samantha Jane Parker. Andrew Wise Pattinson. Isabel Mary Shackley. Sina Shakui. Sonia Ariella Wijaja. Liam Colin Willoughby. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill and ability? Please say together either "So help me God" or "I do." Thank you. Please take your seats.
Now that the formal part of the proceedings has ended, I'd like to warmly welcome you to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Present with me on the bench today is Justice Davies to my right, who is a member of the Common Law Division, and Justice Rees to my left, who is a member of the Equity Division of the Court. Together, we constitute the court that has, in exercise of its jurisdiction, admitted you to practice. As we gather here today, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We recognise the long-standing and enduring customs and traditions of Australia's First Nations and acknowledge with deep regret the role our legal system has had in perpetrating many injustices against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. To all the new lawyers here today, welcome to the legal profession. Today is a day for celebration. You have all worked extremely hard to get here, through probably caffeine-fuelled nights, trying to solve obscure problems, reading countless wafer-thin pages of textbooks, and more cases than you can hope to remember. I assure you, you'll forget most of them. You have entered the world of eggshell skulls, encountered the mysterious reasonable person, and have understood the Constitution represents so much more than the vibe of the thing. So in becoming a lawyer, you have today joined a centuries-old profession with ancient origins. The custom of advocates swearing an admissions oath dates back to the 12th century. This court first admitted lawyers to practice in 1824, prior to any courtroom having been built, and by 1830 the name of lawyers entered onto rolls in this state. You have now become part of this tradition almost 200 years later. Perhaps for some of you and for your family and friends, that's how long it feels you've been studying. On that note, I'm also pleased to welcome those with you here today and those who are listening on live stream. I'm sorry about the technological glitch that has occurred, which means you're unable to watch it. For many of you, though, the support of your family and friends has been invaluable. No doubt, they have also often been on the receiving end of your finely polished skills of argument and persuasion. I do hope you take the time to thank them today. The oath or affirmation you have made today is a serious one and deserves solemn regard. Whether you work in private practice, at the bar, in a community legal centre, or in an entirely different field, you should be known for your honesty, your integrity, and your commitment to justice. It is an acknowledgement of this weighty responsibility that we observe today's unique formalities, including the moving of lawyers, swearing of oaths, and even our somewhat unusual ceremonial robes. On a lighter note, on one occasion, some years ago, a young member of the audience asked if we were doing Santa photos after the ceremony. I was very sorry to disappoint him. However, although we mark this occasion with formality and tradition, not everything in the legal profession remains unchanging. You'll be unsurprised to hear that last year we had to adapt quite a bit. COVID-19 meant a rapid shift to increase use of virtual courtroom setups and technology to ensure access to justice continued in the midst of a pandemic. Things didn't always go smoothly, as those with me on the bench can certainly attest to. There have been real difficulties in grappling with in terms of open justice, effective communication and fairness to participants. And occasionally a lawyer or a judge might even get stuck behind a Zoom kitten filter. But for all the challenges we faced, the impetus is greater than ever before for us to prioritise flexibility and accessibility. Better use of technology and increased working from home arrangements have profound implications for how our legal system interacts with many people, including those in rural or remote areas, those with a disability, medical conditions or carers' responsibilities. As the newest members of the profession, you are at the forefront of innovation in the law and have a unique opportunity to see through changes so that justice is done openly and equitably. There are, of course, other changes that deserve attention. When we think of the diversity of the legal profession, we encounter the duality that we have come very far and that much still needs to be done. Though women were originally not permitted to practice, since 2018, women have made up more than half of all the solicitors with a practising certificate in New South Wales, and currently make up 63% of solicitors under the age of 30. Women occupy many of the most senior positions in the law, including, of course, the Chief Justice of Australia and the Chief Justice of Victoria. However, women continue to face many challenges of representation, including amongst judges of this court and amongst barristers in speaking roles before the High Court. It is heartening to see that the local court of New South Wales has almost achieved gender parity amongst magistrates, but we must not be complacent about these issues. There are other noticeable diversity concerns that we must face head-on. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and people from diverse cultural backgrounds continue to be alarmingly unrepresented in the legal profession, particularly within the judiciary and the ranks of senior counsel. We must also be alert to barriers to the profession for people born from less privileged backgrounds. Law should not be a profession for the wealthy, and the idea that students may be dissuaded from studying law by the cost of a law degree, which this year has again increased, or because of other systemic issues, is troubling. Not just this, but we will only achieve a truly diverse profession when barriers to advancement are broken down and people from different backgrounds are properly supported in a collegiate and inclusive environment, free from harassment and discrimination. These issues are fundamental to a just and transparent legal system and to the legitimacy of the rule of law. We need diverse representation amongst advocates and judges so that all people who become involved in our justice system can be properly heard and fairly engaged with by a system reflective of our broader community. Despite these challenges, there is real scope for change. There is far greater diversity of background amongst junior lawyers than those who have been around for as long as me. And you only need to look around this courtroom and then at the paintings of the wall to see that this is so. You are in a unique position as new lawyers who are entering the profession at a time when more than ever your words and actions are having an impact for good. You are being heard and taken seriously when you agitate to correct injustices, whether it be speaking out against unsustainable working cultures, sexual harassment or bullying within the profession, unfair laws or systemic failings affecting our society's most vulnerable. I urge you to continue to speak up for these things because they really matter. You are the future of the profession and will steer the direction that it will take. As a lawyer, you will also need to make difficult ethical decisions at times. With regard to our personal characteristics, lawyers have been the butt of jokes for centuries. Cynics would say there are, of course, only a handful of lawyer jokes. The rest are true stories. Jokes aside, you must use the tools you have developed to think critically and not compromise on your fundamental duties to the court and the administration of justice and the other ethical duties you must uphold. Now that you are lawyers, you can get paid to argue instead of just arguing for free. Of course, there is a lot more to it than that. You're an advisor, a problem solver, a mediator, and an advocate for the marginalised. As you go about your day-to-day work, remember that you are not merely dealing with the law in a vacuum as a series of abstract concepts, but law as it applies to people's lives. For this reason, you must strive to deliver legal services competently and fearlessly, with courtesy and integrity. Justice Gageler, before he was a High Court judge, once said, "You must be prepared to give the same answer to the same questions for the same reasons, no matter who asks the question or for what purpose and in what context the asking may occur." That is foundational to upholding our rule of law. For those of you who will practice law, the way you communicate information to others will have profound consequences for access to justice. For a non-lawyer, law is often incomprehensible. One of your roles as a lawyer will be to make law accessible to others, sometimes by deciphering legal complexities, other times by deciphering poor legal drafting, and sometimes, I'm sorry to tell you, both. One thing you will regrettably strike throughout your career is legislation which seems carefully crafted with the object of ensuring that no one can understand it. Your task is not just to understand it, but to explain it clearly to those whose rights and interests are affected by it. As lawyers, we must not keep the law locked up as something knowable only to us. A client reading your advice should be empowered to understand your meaning, not mystified and confused. So be clear and concise in your writing and your speaking. Plain English is powerful. Consider, do I really need to say aforementioned or herewith? Must I sprinkle in that Latin phrase? Should I really use double negatives, tautologies and wordy clauses that take up a whole page? I'd suggest the answer to these questions is fairly obviously no. The best advocates can make their point simply and succinctly. Some of the most experienced lawyers and judges could use that reminder. Do not pick up bad habits for those of us who are old and crusty. I also want to speak about failure. I would not be surprised if there were quite a few overachievers and perfectionists in the room today. Even so, at various points in your career, you will make mistakes, some minor, some more serious. When you do make mistakes, your commitment to honesty, integrity and the administration of justice means that you must take responsibility. Correct what you can and learn from those errors. You must fail at times in order to grow. I myself have made many mistakes over the year, too many to remember. What is important is that you try not to make the same mistake twice. Even as Chief Justice, my decisions have on occasions been successfully appealed to the High Court. When that happens, I'm forced to reluctantly remind myself that the High Court is never wrong. However, in fact, even dissenting High Court judgments have later become the law. Finally, I want to emphasise that your mental health is extremely important. This may sound unexpected at this type of ceremony, but the law is not everything. There may be times when you feel overwhelmed, burnt out or disheartened. If you do, you should not be afraid to seek professional help or take a step back when you need to. Also remember that the law is a collegiate profession, and in times of difficulty, the support of your peers will prove invaluable. To give you an example, although you might find it hard to believe, I was admitted quite a long time ago. I lost my first case, and I lost many more after that. It's debatable whether I won more than I lost. But throughout my 35 years in practice, I could always count on the other barristers on my floor to share my disappointment of the verdict, the sly tactics of opposing counsel, and most often, I regret to say, the obtuseness of the judge or judges. I hasten to add that I do not include either of my fellow judges on the bench in the comment. On behalf of all the judges of the Supreme Court, particularly those sitting on the bench today, can I congratulate you on your admission and welcome you to the legal profession. The Court will now adjourn.
Silence, all stand.